Get ready for Benjamin Knight Fuchs live. Live on a Sunday. Ben, what is up? How are
What's
you?
going on, my friend Liam? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Doing good, doing good.
Get ourselves nice and
How about
even here.
yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, get
All
ourselves
right. Well,
nice
you're
and
looking
even
handsome
here.
as always. I like the beard.
Yes, you are too, sir. I think you got a new
Got a hair
haircut. You're looking ready for
made a
spring.
little short.
Built for speed.
Made a little short, but it grows back. Fortunately, I used to freak out when I got a lousy haircut.
Yeah.
Now I don't care so much.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was really, for
You
whatever
panicked when you
reason,
got a bad haircut, right?
panicked when you got a bad haircut. The ladies wouldn't love you anymore. It was the rock. It was the hair
Back
band
when you were a kid, were
days.
you a hairband guy?
Y- Yeah, a little bit, sure. You know, it kind of all started
What
with
did you
Robert
like?
Plant.
Who were your
You know,
Poison?
well,
Poison?
I was. Yeah, I mean,
You like heavy metal or you like hairband?
generally just all sort of just the whole era was just
Yeah.
outstanding. Yeah, and then it started out with the movie, Song
Oh,
Remains
you
the
were a heavy metal
Same,
guy.
and the
You
whole
weren't into disco, probably.
yeah, yeah, and then
I was
disco
listening to the
came,
I
and
was
I
listening to the
grew
Bee
up a
Gees
little.
a couple days ago. I was like, I like the Bee Gees, and I could never imagine liking disco. But I was like, it's not too shabby.
Their harmonies were just
There was a time when I would have
ridiculous.
thrown up if somebody played the Bee Gees at a party or something, or listened to Saturday Night Live. Not Saturday Night Live. Not Saturday.
Night
What was
Fever,
that called?
Night, Saturday Night
Fever.
Fever.
All right, so I want to talk today about a molecule that's getting a lot of attention, and it's a molecule that I've been talking about this for
Okay.
many years because we learned about it in pharmacy school, but it's starting to get a little bit of traction. This is a molecule that's made by bacteria in the intestine. We all these days everybody knows about
Right.
probiotics. That's another thing that is kind of over the last few years, probiotics have become quite the thing. 25 years ago, nobody really knew what probiotics were, but now everybody knows about probiotics. But
Absolutely.
what now we're learning is that probiotics are important because they produce something called postbiotics. Postbiotics, right?
Postbiotics. All right, I'm
Postbiotics
ready, man.
are
Postbiotics.
secretions from probiotics, and probiotics secrete various
Okay.
molecules that are important for the health of the entire body. And one in particular is a fat, technically a fatty acid. Now, most of the fats and fatty acids that we think about are long fatty acids, particularly the essential fatty acids, but usually vegetable fatty acids tend to be long. Bacteria produce three very important short chain fatty acids. One in particular is super duper important. It's called butyrate or butyric acid. It's fatty acid, very short fatty acid. It's got some tremendous health benefits. Most importantly for the digestive system, but as it turns out, for various parts of the body. One of the reasons is because butyrate is ketogenic. It supports the production of ketones. And these days, everybody knows about the ketogenic diet. Butyrate is produced when you by bacteria when you eat fiber, and butyrate in turn helps the body generate these powerful molecules, which we probably should talk about actually now that I think about it, the ketogenic diet, because a lot of people have questions about that. So why don't you take the first slide, put the first slide up. The most important place where butyrate plays a role is in the health of the intestines. It turns out that butyrate acts like an energy source for enterocytes. Enterocytes are intestinal cells, and butyrate can support energy production at the level of the enterocytes. According to this article published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition, quote, butyrate is a key energy source for colonocytes, or that's colon cells or enterocytes, and is produced by the gut microbiome through the fermentation of dietary fiber. It turns out that high butyrate, low rates of colon cancer. Increased colon cancer is associated with low rates of butyrate, and this is one of the reasons why keeping your microbiome healthy by eating fiber. Fiber is the main way that that the body produces butyrate, is so important. So butyrate protects the intestine. It's associated with decreased risks of colon cancer. Colon cancer is one of those cancers whose rates are increasing, particularly among young people. A lot of that has to do with how we eat. A lot of that has to do with our collective dysbiotic dysfunction, that is messed up gut bacteria that we in this culture of ours seem to be suffering under collectively. And butyrate can help support the health of the intestine and reduce the risks of colon cancer, which is one of the most miserable kinds of cancer you could ever imagine. And I mean, all cancer is miserable, but the digestive tract, man, you want that operating pristinely as long as you live. Second slide. Potential benefits is from World Journal of Gastroenterology. Potential beneficial effects of butyrate in intestinal diseases. The multiple beneficial effects on human health of the short-chain fatty acid butyrate, synthesized from non-absorbed carbohydrate by colonic microbiota, are well documented, and they have been for decades. Butyrate plays a regulatory role in how fluids are transported across the intestine. It keeps things moving along. It helps reduce inflammation. It's anti-inflammatory, and it's an antioxidant, and it helps protect against leaky gut. And we know that leaky gut is the first point on the triangle of disease, and anything you do to support intestinal health, the integrity of the intestine, is going to not only help you with intestinal health, but as we'll find out here momentarily, it's going to help you with a lot of other things too. Next slide. This is from the Journal of Functional Foods. Butyrate, carnitine, and leucine, these are two other amino acids, are dietary ingredients that may be ketogenic, but whether they are equally or more ketogenic in humans than medium-chain fats is unclear. Typically, medium-chain fats are associated with ketogenesis, but as it turns out, butyrate actually has the potential to be just as, if not more, ketogenic than the medium-chain fats. Just another reason why you want to make sure you're eating fiber, and you can actually get butyrate as a supplement. They sell butyrate at most health food stores. You can buy it on the internet as well. Next slide. Butyrate is also anabolic. I used to use butyrate in the gym in a form called HMB, which you can still buy at health food stores or at GNC, where they sell bodybuilding supplements. HMB stands for hydroxymethyl butyrate, and it's a well-known anabolic substance. It's a derivative of butyrate. Another derivative of butyrate is called gamma hydroxybutyrate, and that's actually a prescription drug that you can use because butyrate has some sedative properties, and this prescription drug is used to help relax you, and also it's also used to treat narcolepsy in a paradoxical kind of way. But in this case, this is an article that was published in the journal Immunity. It was shown that the microbial metabolite butyrate stimulates bone formation, and they're now exploring it for the use for treatment of osteoporosis, for bone porosity. Of course, you don't necessarily need butyrate supplements. You can actually support butyrate production at the level of the intestine. This study concluded butyrate may represent a new intervention for the prevention and treatment of osteoporosis. Next slide. Turns out that butyrate also is involved with, can help with combating obesity. Butyrate improves satiety. It makes you feel more satisfied, and it reduces caloric intake. It's a natural appetite suppressant. So now it's being explored for its therapeutic use as a therapeutic intervention for treating obesity, as well as metabolic disorders associated with obesity. That's the second point on the triangle of disease. So we see that butyrate can help us with the first 2 points on the triangle of disease. Next slide. Again, we find that butyrate reduces appetite and activates brown adipose tissue. Brown fat is a very interesting kind of fat. Young people or babies especially have more brown fat than adults. Brown fat is thermogenic. It generates heat. It's fat burning. And it turns out that butyrate will activate that fat burning effect in addition to reducing, having an appetite suppressant effect. Next slide. And butyrate, as it turns out, ameliorates the atrophy that is associated with diabetics who are suffering from something called neuropathy or peripheral neuropathy by enhancing gut barrier function. Once again, we see that butyrate can be used for folks who are dealing with anything that has to do with intestinal permeability. And as we know, all chronic disease is associated with intestinal permeability. So not only will you improve skeletal muscle atrophy or improve growth, but you'll also reduce the risks and actually reduce the symptoms, and even possibly even reverse chronic degenerative diseases, which are all associated with leaky gut. And that includes, especially, by the way, autoimmunity. If I had an autoimmune disease, you better believe I'd be supplementing with butyrate as well as making sure that my gut bacteria were producing butyrate by eating more fiber. We'll give you some tips for increasing butyrate naturally here in a moment. Last slide. And we find from the Journal of Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy from just last month, sodium butyrate ameliorates pain and mood disorders in a mouse model of Parkinson's disease. So the central nervous system benefits associated with this intestinal short chain fat. First of all, it highlights what's called the gut-brain axis, which is the relationship between digestive health and mental health, brain health, I should say. It turns out that sodium butyrate, which is a derivative of butyric acid, can help reduce pain and mood disorders in a model of Parkinson's disease, but it will generally help improve pain and mood disorders. But you can also assume that it will have a beneficial effect on the movement disorders that are linked to Parkinson's disease. Again, if I had Parkinson's disease or any kind of brain health, organic brain disease, you better believe I would be using butyrate or increasing my fiber to make sure that I was making butyrate. So how do you improve butyrate levels in your body? Well, for one thing, probably the most important thing you could do is make sure you're eating fiber. Fiber is, when you eat fiber, bacteria in the gut get fiber, and as a reward, I guess you could say, they reward us with lots of postbiotic butyrate, lots of butyrate secretion. So that's probably the most important thing you could do. Butyrogenic foods include things like beans, legumes, flax seeds, chia seeds, all fruits and vegetables that have fiber. Garlic, onions are especially rich in fiber. Also, what they call resistant starch, which is a special type of fiber from green bananas and cold potatoes, have been shown to feed the microbes that make butyrate to help increase our butyrate levels. You can also eat butyrate-containing foods. Butter gets its name from the butyric acid that it contains. Butter, the name butter comes from the butyric acid that's in the butter. Also, yogurt is a source of butyric acid. Butyric acid is found in a lot of dairy foods because ruminants, like cows, make lots of butyrate because they got lots of bacteria. That's why they can eat grass. They eat grass, and the bacteria actually digest the grass, and they release this postbiotic butyrate. So, butter and dairy foods tend to be the richest butyrate-containing foods. Fermented foods also, because those are bacteria-rich, things like tempeh and sauerkraut and kimchi and pickles and natto can all contain butyrate. Also, hard cheeses like Parmesan cheese contains butyrate. Also, making sure that you're getting enough sleep. Butyrate, rest is a critical factor in butyrate production. You repair the gut while you sleep. Butyrate levels also help support sleep. In fact, there's a butyrate that I mentioned, a butyrate medication that contains something called gamma hydroxybutyrate. It's one of the most incredible sleep aids you'll ever use. You do need a prescription for that, but you can make your own butyrate. Fasting is another great way to increase butyrate levels. When you stop eating, your gut bacteria can get to work. When you stop putting food into the digestive system, when you stop putting food in, you stop making the digestive system work so hard, and intestinal bacteria can do their work a little bit more efficiently, particularly when you stop eating the standard American diet. So fasting can help, or even a low-calorie diet or intermittent fasting can also help raise butyrate levels. Working out is another great way to encourage butyrate levels by supporting blood flow to the intestine. And relaxation or lowering cortisol levels is another strategy for increasing butyrate levels. When cortisol levels go up, elevated cortisol levels can affect inflammation in the intestine. Long-term secretion of cortisol will ultimately result in something called cortisol resistance, which can link to inflammation, which can be associated with inflammation, and that can throw off gut bacterial health. And then finally, supplementing with butyrate supplements. If you're taking an antibiotic, you should know that you're going to kill off your gut bacteria. Antibiotics will kill all bacteria, including your gut bacteria. And one of the things that can happen is you can end up with reduced butyrate levels. So particularly after you're taking an antibiotic, not only do you want to use probiotic supplements, and most people, or a lot of people will say, know that they need probiotic supplements after they take an antibiotic. But what they may not know, and hopefully listeners now know, is that using butyrate supplements can ameliorate some of the constipation or gas or gut pain that's associated with antibiotics, with long-term or even short-term intake of antibiotics. So you can buy supplements, sodium butyrate supplements, butyric acid, I believe, comes as a supplement. There's a really interesting supplement called tributyrin, which is sort of a deluxe form of butyrate. It's got 3 different forms of butyrate. It's a little bit pricey, but that could be really helpful, especially if you're dealing with a full-blown intestinal issue like ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel syndrome, or even if you just want to prevent intestinal health problems. Tributyrin might be something that you want to take. It's a little expensive, but you can find it pretty readily on the internet. Tributyrin is its official name, Tributyryn, and that's butyric acid, short-chain fatty acid. You will start to hear more and more about it. I'm hearing more and more about it. I've noticed that every week there's an article that comes out about butyric acid, or I read something in the alternative health press about butyrate or butyric acid. As I say, I've known about it since my pharmacy school days. In fact, interestingly, GHB that I talked about earlier, gamma hydroxybutyrate, I used to make it in my lab in the 1990s, and I was using it and I was selling it as a sleep aid, and also anabolic properties. The bodybuilders would buy it, and it also, interestingly, is great for libido. It's a powerful aphrodisiac, as it turns out, but unfortunately it became illegal, and now you can only get it on a prescription. But if you do have a sleep problem, can't sleep, it's an incredibly safe, non-toxic sleep aid, non-addicting, and bonus, it's an aphrodisiac, and also it also helps you build muscle. HMB, as I say, hydroxymethylbutyrate, is also a supplement that bodybuilders still use, and I was using it back in the 1990s. So I knew about butyrate from pharmacy school, from my experience as an athlete, from making it in the lab, and I've been recommending and suggesting that people use butyrate for many, many years. Now you're starting to hear more and more alternative health practitioners, still not the mainstream, but alternative health practitioners suggesting, recommending, and talking about the benefits and the importance and the health relevance of short-chain fatty acid, sodium butyrate, or butyric acid.
So it's a fatty acid like omega-3 is a fatty acid. It's an omega-3, a long fatty acid, as opposed to butyrate, which is
short chain. Completely different properties than long-chain fatty acids. You're not going to get any of these benefits from the long-chain fatty acids. The fact that it's short means that it can be used very efficiently by cells. Cells can work with it very efficiently, and that makes it important for energy.
It seems very versatile. Like it's able to support all the points on the triangle of disease,
and the nervous system, and the intestine. Yeah, it is very versatile, and the best part of it, it's completely non-toxic. Isn't that cool? You have all of these wonderful benefits, and I'm telling you, GHB in particular, gamma hydroxybutyrate, works fast, super fast. In fact, when I actually used GHB myself, you would fall asleep in like 10 minutes. You'd fall right asleep, dead asleep, and you'd only sleep for like an hour or 2 hours, but you'd wake up completely rested. It was really amazing, and then it became illegal. So now you can get it on a prescription. But if you have a sleep problem, I would recommend that you talk to your doctor about getting a prescription. I forgot the brand name of it, but just ask for gamma hydroxybutyrate, or GHB.
And the microbiome, it's a, how did you say it's a post?
There's prebiotics, there's probiotics, and there's postbiotics. Everybody talks about the probiotics. We all know about those, right? The prebiotics are the food for the probiotics. Pre means before, right?
Prebiotics are the food for the probiotics.
In turn, secrete postbiotics. So you have pre, pro, and post. Prebiotics are fiber. The probiotics eat the prebiotics, and then they secrete the postbiotics.
Okay. And then when you take a course of antibiotics, you've got the flu, you get some, erythromycin or whatever it is.
Don't give it to you for the flu, but for a bacterial problem, you can take antibiotics. You're going to kill off your probiotics, and then you're not going to get the postbiotics. So it's really important. In addition, and a lot of people these days know that after they take a course of antibiotics, it's a good idea to get on some probiotics. But now you know that you also want to get on postbiotics. probiotics like butyrate. And especially if you're dealing with intestinal problems, or if you're dealing with something that's associated with intestinal problems like an autoimmune disease or really any chronic disease, as we've talked about so many times, that all diseases start off as an intestinal disease. So by working on the intestine with butyrate, you can prevent or even reduce the symptoms, or even possibly reverse the problems associated with chronic degenerative diseases. And considering it's non-toxic and relatively inexpensive, if you get just the plain old butyrate, it's just it seems foolish not to at least try to use some butyrate supplements. And if you really want to go all out, get the tributyrin, which is 3 forms of butyric acid, although it's a little bit pricey.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Oh,
And
well, for my
don't forget to check Ben. Don't forget to check Ben out at
treatments.com.
truthtreatments.com.
Yeah, TrueTreatments.com. If you're looking for skincare, you know what we're doing with True Treatments is it's really interesting. And I know, you know, I'm obviously partial to what I'm doing. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't believe in it. What we're doing is we're taking skincare away from the chemocentric chemistry world that it's been immersed in for the last 150 years since the modern skincare business was born, and taking it into the electrical world. Truth Treatment, the ingredients I use in my Truth Treatment formulations work because they work electrically. They literally will support micro voltages at the level of the cell. And while we don't really talk a lot about the electrical, which really is the quantum level, we talk about electricity at the cellular level, we'll talk about quantum electricity. We don't really talk about that too much because it goes over people's heads. But really, if you want to have effective skincare and you want to have beautiful skin, you got to at least understand the relevance and the importance of electrical energy. And in fact, if you want to understand the health of the entire body, you want to understand electricity, because at the end of the day, health is voltage. Or as Dr. Jerry Tennant says,
Health is voltage. I love
voltage.
that. Health is voltage.
Dr. Jerry Tennant has a book actually called Healing is Voltage, and he talks about how voltage is involved in the healing process. Well, overall health is voltage. We are electrical beings primarily, and while we live in a chemocentric world and we focus on chemistry all the time, and I love chemistry, at the end of the day, chemistry only works because of electricity. And the ingredients I choose to work with my Truth Treatments, particularly the minerals, work because they help facilitate voltages, micro voltages at the level of the cells, utilizing a biochemical process that is becoming more and more well known by the mainstream. Cell biologists have known about this for decades, for maybe even for centuries. It's a process called redox. Actually, probably not for centuries, but certainly for decades. Redox, reduction, oxidation. Now, it's a little bit quantum-y. You gotta be nerdy a little bit to understand redox, but you don't need to understand redox to take advantage of the power of my Truth Skin Health products. When you use Truth Treatments, you get results from 1 drop or 2 drops, the same kind of results that you get by slathering on a whole bunch of creams. And you should never really, creams are yucky. Creams and lotions are yucky. They're old school. They're complicated. They're filled with things you don't need on your skin, and you certainly don't need to pay for. Our serums are dense. And that's why you only need 1 drop. And there's no water, there's no wax, there's no silicone, there's no vegetable oils, there's no preservatives. There's nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our True Skin Health products. And I don't mean to make this an advertisement for Truth, but you know what? In my humble opinion, you're crazy if you don't use True Skin Health products, if you're using any other products. I know that's me saying that, but you can go online and check out Trustpilot and check out our reviews. And you can see there's at least 1,000 people, a little over 1,000 people who've written reviews who agree with everything I just said.
Wow, 1,000 testimonials. I'd love to take
on Trustpilot.
Love to take a look at that. Okay, we've got a little shout out from YouTube, and Luda would like to say hello.
Luda,
hi, Ben.
My friend Luda. Hi, Luda. Luda's been using Truth for a while. I talk to her periodically,
and she would like to know, what would I use for woman 35 for health hormones?
35 already. Oh my gosh. I've been talking to Luda for a long time. I think she was 25 when I first started talking to her. Luda, for women's health hormones, there's so many things, but you know, I can't really tell you absolutely everything here, but I can tell you that the fats are very important and the microbiome is very important. So for women's health issues, think fats, fatty acids, and intestinal health. And by intestinal health, I'm generally referring to the microbiome, as we talked about. Butyric acid, butyrate, would be an awesome supplement for women's health issues. All your essential fatty acids both your essential fatty acids, I should say, omega-3 and omega-6, plus the omega-3 derivatives, DHA and EPA, which you'll get from fish oil. And then fatty vitamins are also important, vitamins A and D, both of which play a very important role, by the way, in intestinal health, as well as E and K, all really important. And then there are a couple minerals that are handled by the fatty part of the body, specifically selenium, zinc, and maybe even calcium to a certain extent. And it's no accident that as women get older, they have problems processing their fats, and gallbladder disease and gallbladder removal is much more common in postmenopausal women. And as women age, they do suffer from a lot of the symptoms of fat deficiency or fat metabolism issues, such as dry skin and not endometriosis, but female health issues, we'll say, cervical issues, ovarian issues. As women get older, they start to suffer from these kinds of female health problems. And a lot of that has to do with poor fat metabolism. So working on taking in your fats and then also helping using supplements that help you absorb your fats too. Things like digestive enzymes, lipase, for example, lecithin, bile salts, taurine, which is an amino acid that's part of the bile molecule. Also glycine, another amino acid that's part of the bile molecule. So focusing on intake of fats and supporting fat absorption and also intestinal health, which is related. Those are all the things I would be doing for any kind of female health issue. And by the way, the signs of all the signs of menopause, the hot flashes, the anxiety, the obesity, or the weight gain, I should say, depression, cancers even, all of these are associated with our triangle of disease. So not only do you want to take care of digestive health, but you also want to make sure that you're working on metabolic syndrome. There's a very, very important relationship between menopausal symptoms and female health problems and metabolic syndrome or insulin resistance. And to simplify health, if you really want to cut down the chase and simplify, because it can be kind of complicated, and the medical folks really want to make it complicated, or they really do make it complicated. Here's how you simplify it. Digestive health, blood sugar health. Work on your intestine and work on your blood sugar. If you do it correctly, all chronic degenerative disease symptoms will begin to subside. And even if you don't have a chronic degenerative disease and you're just symptomatic, like if you're having female health issues, those will begin to subside as well. Greens, all BTT, I don't know what that means, but what about greens powders? Green powder or green powders are great. One of the best things you could do is make your own green juices with a Vitamix. I make a green and tomato. I put tomato, cucumber, lettuce, green pepper sometimes, watercress. I'll put it all in a Vitamix. What do you call that thing? A Vitamix bucket? I don't know. What do you call that thing? Vitamix, like a blender. I throw Vitamix, top it off with water, put some spices in there, and check this out. First of all, it makes the most delicious juice. I filter it out sometimes because I like to drink it, but the fiber is great, and you can do lots of things with the fiber, including putting in sauces and soups. But you can also make delicious soup with your Vitamix. So by throwing all these greens and veggies into a Vitamix, blend it up real good, you can just stick it in the fridge, and then later you can stick it, just put it on the stove, or if you want the microwave, heat it up. It makes the most delicious veggie soup. You can chop up some potatoes and put it in there. I'm a bachelor. I like doing things easy, and this is really super, super easy. So a Vitamix, make your own green powder, green juice, and then green powders are always great. You can add them to anything.
Fantastic, Ben. All right, people, thank you for the fantastic questions. Screenshot this screen. Oh, we have one last, we've got one last comment before we go. Good evening. From Mario, I would like to...
Pineapple in pizza is a sin. Well, I didn't know that. Is it one of the 7 deadly sins, or what? Hey, Mario, I don't personally like pineapple. I never really understood why people would put pineapple in pizza, but to each their own.
To each their own. Thank you for that.
Wonderful.
All right, everyone.
Our wonderful comment, Mario, and thank you, Liam. Great to see you, and thank you, Luda. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you.
Thanks, Luda, and thanks everybody for watching.
Bye.
See you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.